Rainbow Six Siege is one of the most important gaming franchises out there. There's obviously something so inspirational and important to the idea that the world can band together, no matter how different we all are, to fight a unified threat. And the various and differing perspectives are key to it all. I'm sure it's one of the reasons that Rainbow Six Siege is so popular today. I think that the diversity of Team Rainbow is one of the most important aspects of not only the squad, but the identity of the game as a whole. It's a game played by people all around the world, by so many different creeds, colors, and identities, and it's so helpful and important to so many people. There's undoubtedly so many people who either felt seen or discovered different cultures and people by the variety of its cast and the community of the game as a whole. Rainbow Six Siege has a colorful cast of characters and a colorful fan base from around the world, and it's important to the soul of the game that it keeps that nature of that diversity and multiculturalism. There's many things to be said about the current state of Rainbow Six Siege. I personally think that it's been good and have vastly enjoyed a number of additions made this year. They've been pretty essential to the health of the game. However, one thing I haven't really been a big fan of is something about the operators. Brava and Ram are both great, kit and gadget wise, some of the most creative and innovative gadgets they've added. But one thing I really don't enjoy is that both operators hail from countries that are already represented in Team Rainbow. In the past few years, countries were reused, but they've either been reserved to one per year ever since we've been getting one op per season, or they've been pretty different perspective and context from somebody coming from that country previously. Azami is from Japan like Habana and Echo, but after stagnating in the police department, she decided to join the private sector and became a bodyguard, and her inclusion led to story details about Nighthaven as their weapons were used on the assassination of Masayuki Yahata, the person she was hired by, and she enlisted Habana's help, which led to her joining Team Rainbow. Thunderbird is from Canada, but she's a Native American pilot who specializes in search and rescue, and we learned that she saved Nomad from an expedition in the Canadian wilderness. Sam Fisher is from the US, but not only is he from a new city and state, but he's also an incredibly important and awesome part of Tom Clancy's history. He also serves a purpose on Team Rainbow as an instructor and overseer, as well as de facto leader considering what happened to Harry. These past operators from old countries have offered new insight, context, and perspective compared to the operators that have come from there previously. Brava is much younger than Capital, but not lacking in experience by any means, being a skilled operative in the field and having a strong sense of respect and value for human life, especially for the ones around her. She's not willing to throw others' lives away for the sake of the mission and won't give up in the face of a challenge, being shown by her choosing to save Capital over potentially stopping Deimos, and her background of storming a criminal compound to save multiple hostages on a botched rescue mission. I think she serves as a great emotional core not only to Capital, but most likely Team Rainbow as a whole. Ram, on the other hand, isn't poorly written by any means. I just think her lore could be more interconnected to some of the other operators, or wish that her coming from Korea benefited the lore or dynamics of Team Rainbow. At least currently, her lore doesn't mention meeting Dokkaebi or Vigil prior to joining Rainbow, and she doesn't have any prior relations to anybody in Rainbow. To me personally, I think it would have been great if she was from another Asian country to diversify the team even further, like Vietnam or the Philippines. She could have even been from the same region like Taiwan. As a young child, she could have migrated to Korea and her parents put her in the adoption system or moved as an adult. One thing that I did enjoy was in the comic they released this season, they had two operators from different squads interacting and working together. That's exactly what Rainbow is about. People with different perspectives from different walks of life working together. I wouldn't say that Ram isn't vastly different from Dokkaebi or Vigil in her approach to situation and mannerisms, being more about a head-first approach than misdirection or sneaking around. But I think what really weighs down that she's from Korea is the lack of connective tissue between the other squad mates. Many operators, either from new or old countries, have connections with other operators on the team or in the wider echelon of the Rainbow lore. Azami is friends with Habana and asked her for help. Flores got asylum from Ash, Aruni previously worked with Thermite. It really makes them feel like a team to see these interconnecting branches of camaraderie and alliances, as well as rivalries and enemies coming from this colorful cast of characters. And with Ram, she feels disconnected from that well. Even Fenrir does a better job of this. Even though he doesn't have many connections inside of Rainbow, he has an essential connection to Deimos and serves as some insight on his plans. And while it's very minor, his past connections with Deimos has caused mistrust with a few operators, notably Kaid, who strongly protests his inclusion. Side note, rereading the comics for this video, I noticed that in Fenrir's comic, not only do they tease what happens in Ram's animated intro, But one of the people that were hostages in the comic worked for Yahada Data Services, previously owned by Masayuki Yahada, the guy Azami was a bodyguard for, and I thought that was a really neat reference. I'm sure later down the line, they'll either have new lore with her interacting with some of the characters, or even introduce characters that have connections with her, but as it stands now, I think Ram could have been handled a bit differently. If not from a brand new country, then she should have been integrated into the lore and the building narrative better. The diverse perspectives and backgrounds, as well as the synergy and camaraderie between the cast, is a core part of what's enjoyable to me about Siege, and I really hope they don't start to lose that side of things, even if it doesn't affect the gameplay. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. This is a much different video than I normally post, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot since RAM came out. If you care about Siege operators, what's a country you'd want to see? Personally, I'd love to see a Panamanian operator, and it's also a bit surprising that we haven't gotten an Afghan or Vietnamese operator yet. Regardless of where, I'm excited to see what new places the operators will be hailing from next.